Hey everyone, just a really quick little video today about a book that I've just finished reading and kind of want to talk to you guys about, and it's going to be kind of like half book review, half me talking about something a little bit personal that you guys have kind of been asking about, and yeah, I literally just finished this and just wanted to share it with you guys. The book I've been reading recently is How Do You Like Me Now by Holly Bourne. Holly is an author who... That was a TV. Kyra sometimes likes to sleep on top of the TV remote and turns it on occasionally, so there you go. So Holly is predominantly an author who writes young adult fiction. This is her first kind of like properly for adults novel, so I was kind of intrigued by it and thought I'd give it a go, and was really pleasantly surprised. To talk about the plot, How Do You Like Me Now was an incredibly relatable book for me. It tells the story of Tori, who is this woman in her early 30s who's made a career out of writing an inspirational self-help memoir, and the book ended with her sorting her life out, essentially realizing, you know, having this kind of like moment of self-realization, there we go, and also meeting this man who she had the most amazing, perfect relationship with, and they've been together ever since, and it's been like 6 years now, and she tours the world doing public speaking and inspirational speaking, and she has this like Facebook fan page, and she does all sorts of stuff, and she's given a TED talk, and everyone always thinks she's so put together because she's got this perfect relationship that she wrote about, and she's this inspiration to thousands of women. The problem is, now everyone, all her fans, think they know her life inside out. They think her relationship is perfect when honestly it's kind of stagnated, and her partner is barely interested in her at all, and he doesn't want to make things better. He doesn't see there's a problem. They're constantly fighting and bickering and arguing, and he's quite mean to her, and yeah, I've been there, and quite recently. Not so much the bickering thing, but definitely a partner who doesn't seem interested in you at all. She struggles with the fact that the whole world is essentially watching her life and judging her life and her personal life and her relationship, and she doesn't want to let people, her fans, down by admitting that it's not working. And yep, I've been there. She also struggles with the fact that she is so career focused. While everyone around her, all her friends, all her family, are off getting engaged and married and having kids and focusing on that kind of thing, and they all end up kind of looking down on her or looking at her with pity because they're like, don't have a baby, do you? And all that kind of thing. And yeah, I am constantly living that life, so I can relate. There were some things I didn't relate to the main character Tori on. For example, she's a little girlier than me. She cares a whole lot more about stuff like editing her photos and watching her weight than I think I ever will. She's constantly at odds with herself about whether she wants kids or not, which I guess is kind of a dilemma I've had in the past, but definitely don't have now. I've definitely been through a lot of the questions that she's gone through, but maybe not to the extent that she does, and I think my conclusions are very different to hers. You know, like as a child, I hated playing with baby dolls, and this idea of playing mummies and babies was literally my worst nightmare. I hated it and dreaded it, and as I got older, especially as a teenager, I never saw myself wanting kids, and everyone always told me, you'll change your mind when you're older, you'll change your mind. So I kind of grew up with this expectations that I would change my mind, but I still knew that having kids never felt right to me. I always said I didn't want kids, and then I met Dan, and he did want them, and I faced this like massive dilemma, and I guess we kind of compromised in the end, and we always said like, well, we'll wait a few years until we're at least 30, if not older, and then we'll just see what happens. We won't try for kids, but if it happens, it happens. And that was the compromise we made. But again, the older I got, the more I was like, this doesn't feel right. And the closer I got to 30 and essentially that deadline, I was like, I can't do it. Like for me, 30 is now 3.5 years away. And I do not want a child in 3.5 years. Not even a little bit. Just the older I get, the less I want kids, and the more sure I am that it's just wrong for me. So anyway, I was worried about this, and I ended up speaking to Dan about it, and he was like, you know what, actually, as I get older, I don't think I want them either. So that was never a problem for us in the end, which was a good thing. That worked out well, that worked out fine. So I've never really had the same dilemmas that Tori had in this book in terms of wanting kids, but I definitely have them in terms of relating to everyone around me having kids and wanting kids, and people looking down on me and stuff for not wanting or not having that life, and you know what I mean. And I think it's only going to get worse as I get older. And of course, now I face this whole new issue of dating when I don't want kids. And since breaking up with Dan, I've been out on a couple of dates and stuff. And yeah, do you know how difficult it is meeting people when you don't want kids? Like, it's surprising. There's this stereotype that women are the baby crazy ones, right? And that men don't really care. No, it's all crap. Men want kids just as much as women, if not more. Out of every, man I know, they either A, definitely want kids, B, maybe want kids, probably. In the future, we'll see. But yeah, no, probably, I think I do. Or C, they don't want kids, but that's only because they're a massive player and they have a fear of any kind of commitment. There's occasionally a decent man who doesn't want them, thankfully, but it's so rare and difficult to find, and it's stressful. Anyway, ridiculous, I got sidetracked. Back to the book. So throughout the book, Tori is an incredibly flawed protagonist, and I kind of loved that. Some of the reviews I've read since finishing the book, people kind of hated her. People thought she was annoying or unlikable, and I can see where they're coming from, but I didn't actually find that to be a bad thing. I just felt she felt like a very real person. What I saw was a woman who was going through some crap and not coping with it very well. I sympathized with her and she was very relatable. And the thing is, a lot of her behavior was problematic or annoying or whatever, but it was never glamorized. She was overly emotional at times. Sometimes she drank too much. Sometimes she cried too much. Sometimes she was too stubborn. Sometimes she just reacted to things in a really bad, over-the-top way. But it was never glamorized. It was never shown that, oh, look, she's just doing this. Isn't she quirky and funny? Or, oh, look, she's doing this, but it all works out in the end. No. It was like a woman reacting badly, and she had to live with the consequences of it. The negative behavior was never glamorized. It was just made very real, which I respected and liked, actually. I thought it made her I felt a lot more empathetic towards her. And I don't know, I did relate to her because I could understand her reactions, and even though they aren't the ideal reactions, they were real, and that's how real people respond sometimes. We can't be perfect and controlled all the time. Sometimes we're just emotional or silly or stupid, and people screw up, and we drink too much, or we cry too much, or we hold things in, or we blurt them out at the wrong moments. It's a human thing. People do them. Tori's biggest struggle throughout the entire book is that she begins to realize that her boyfriend Tom isn't right for her. She's not happy at all, and she doesn't know what to do about this. She stays with him partly because she thinks it's what people expect of her, and she doesn't want to disappoint people, and she stays with him partly because she's terrified of being alone. Obviously, as a person who's been in her position, and very recently, it was a little frustrating at times to read, because part of me wanted to just sit there and scream like, oh, for God's sake, just leave him, you don't need a man. But I also know that I've been there, and I probably struggled with the same decisions for nearly as long as she did, and the same questions and the same worries, and it's not a decision you can make lightly, especially when you have this whole life built together and you have a future mapped out together and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, as frustrating as it kind of was at times, that's just because I have hindsight to help me out. Yeah. I mean, just like Tori wrote about meeting Tom in the last chapters of her book and how wonderful the first few months of their relationship were, I told you guys about Dan and how wonderful and perfect the first few years of our relationship were. I never lied to you guys about that at all. They were as good as I said they were, and all the good stuff I told you about, it happened, and it was amazing, and it was wonderful. But when things started to get bad, I stopped talking about Dan so much, and some of you noticed, some of you didn't. And I didn't mention any of the difficult stuff at all. Partly because I didn't want to air any of my personal drama publicly, and partly because I just didn't think it would be very nice for you guys to hear about. I'd created this picture in a lot of your heads where me and Dan were this perfect little family, and I didn't want to destroy that. Because, I don't know, part of me thought admitting to the faults in the relationship made them more real. And another part of me just, I don't know, didn't want to let you guys down. Even when I came to the realization myself that we needed to break up and everything, I was terrified for a long time to tell you guys. And, I knew that as soon as I admitted to breaking up with him, I'd get a lot of comments and a lot of speculation, and that's a scary thing to deal with. I knew a lot of people would think I was lying and that Dan had actually dumped me and he'd finally got fed up of me. I knew that some people would be like, oh, did you cheat on him, or did he cheat on you? And like, it was nothing like any of that. It was just, yeah, none of that happened. We just began to drift apart. We just wanted different things in life, and I didn't really like the person that Dan was becoming. I still loved him, I just didn't like him so much anymore. Anyway, I don't want to like get too much into that personal side of things. I want to keep that stuff private. But I guess all you guys need to know is that it was an amicable breakup. We're still friends. There's no drama. I have Kyra like 80% of the time, and he looks after her occasionally and sees her every other day or whatever and takes her to the park, and it's all good. But the point is, there's a fantastic little part of the book that really kind of sums up how I feel about everything. And in it, Tori is talking to one of her friends who's like a new friend. She's just met her, and she's a bit older, and she's like 38, and she's still single and stuff. She doesn't have kids, she doesn't want kids, and Tori's kind of stressing out, and the friend says to her, being single isn't awful. I mean, it's hard sometimes, yeah, but it's not the worst thing in the world. I mean, it's not as bad as being in the wrong relationship. Yes, I could not agree more. I would much rather, I actually said this on Instagram the other day, and you guys asked me like some questions and I was answering and stuff, and I'm like, I'd much rather be alone and happy than in a relationship that wasn't working, you know? Yeah, again, later, like a couple of pages later in the book, the friend, I can't actually remember her name. I know, it's terrible. I've literally just finished reading it. She's not a huge character. There we go, Sandy, sorry. Yeah, so Sandy is talking about how she ended a long-term relationship, and she says, now I feel about 10 stone lighter. I'm so much happier. Don't get me wrong, I still hope I meet someone, but I also know I'll be fine if I don't, you know? My life is mine, totally mine. And I just love that. That's exactly how I feel about life and where I'm at the minute. And yeah, I like that. And that's another reason I found the book so relatable and helpful. And I think it does give a lot of hope in that way. But anyway, yeah, I don't want to give away too much about the book. Although I don't think it's necessarily a book about the plot so much as the journey and having a giggle along the way. So yeah, there you go. Anyway, the point is, the book is How Do You Like Me Now by Holly Bourne. I thoroughly recommend it. It's wonderful. I will leave a link down in the description if you want to grab a copy yourself. It is an affiliate link, so if you buy anything via that link, I get a couple of pence, it's like a commission type thing, which is nice, and it helps me out, and it supports my channel. But you know, don't feel any pressure. But like I say, great book. I thoroughly recommend it. I really enjoyed it. If you've read this book or anything else by Holly Bourne or any similar books, please let me know because I'd absolutely love to hear about it. And also give me your other book recommendations because I always love getting them from you guys. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.